ARMA Reforger on Steam Deck thanks to Bohemia Interactive for providing a code of the game. So military simulation, when it comes to deck compatibility, is marked as unsupported, and they don't actually give us a reason for that thing. Valve is still working on any support. That's about it. I thought it was going to be the anti-cheat because there is easy anti-cheat going. But at least for me, the game is working just fine. So let's take a look at the options menu. We have borderless full screen at 85% resolution. So 100% is 800p, which is understandable. But to get the best experience, at least in my opinion, we need 85%. It can be pretty intensive on the GPU. Also, for it to not look blurry when you lower the render scale, enable FSR1. At least in this case, I think it's a good implementation, all things considered. You also have an option for the FPS limit, 30, 60, 120, 144, and 360. Personally, I think using the SteamOS FPS lock on this one gives us better frame times, but it's an option if you want to use it instead of the DeX system level VSync. Draw distance from 1200 meters to 5000 meters. Let's keep it at 1200. I think this is good enough. Depth of field, personally, I don't like using it in games like this. 2D scopes. So what is a 2D scope? Well, let me show you very quick so you understand what's going on. We're doing a 3D scope like it is by default. If I'm aiming down sights, what's in the middle of the screen is zoomed in like a real scope, but what's outside the screen is not zoomed in like in most other games. That's for performance reasons. And it's a huge FPS hit. So my advice, especially if you're playing multiplayer, is to put 2D scopes instead of 3D. So if you enable 2D scopes, instead of having that, you have a black screen around it. And we get a 10 FPS improvement when aiming down a scope. So keep the scopes in 2D. At least that's my opinion. Then, when it comes to post-processing, we got anti-aliasing, SMAA high is good enough, depth of field, I ignore it personally, low ambient occlusion looks good, medium screen space reflections, it's okay, contact shadows as well. Hardware anti-aliasing, this is actually MSAA, which is super GPU intensive. I recommend ignoring it on this one, at least on the Steam Deck. Geometric detail on medium, draw distance on medium, parallax for the terrain, textures on medium, interestingly enough, texture filtering on high, otherwise you get very bad textures very close to the camera, at least in my experience. Grass quality, I had to lower it, because if you increase it, the GPU load is much higher, so you have less foliage on screen. And the draw distance of the grass, you can go up to 300 meters. This is very intensive, keep it at 100, I think that's good enough. Shadow quality, medium was okay. Distant shadows on low, I think was okay as well. It still looks good. Render target format, standard, and environment quality, which also is pretty intensive, I put it on medium. With the settings out of the way, this is the training mode with unlocked frame rates. And as you might notice, there is a lot of aliasing. Well, this game doesn't have TAA, but you have full body, your full body there with your own shadow, and as you can see, the shadow can drop quality very quickly. Interestingly enough, even on the highest settings on my main PC with a 4090, I was still seeing the shadows being rendered in front of me, but at a longer distance, obviously. But this part is not intensive. Also, sometimes if you drop below 30, you might have the wrong sound on the gun. So yeah, it has full gamepad support, which is nice to see. Usually military simulation games are mouse and keyboard only. But this one does have full controller support. If I'm using a controller, it will show me controller prompts right away. So yeah, I think all things considered, being a military simulation, it looks good enough. So anyway, if this is not the most demanding part, what is it? Well, there is multiplayer and modding and a very big community when it comes to that, like in the previous ARMA games. And I personally think that a fair test would be on a big match with at least 64 players. I have good news. I was able to get into a 128 player match, which should be way more intensive on the CPU and GPU, especially when there's something going on. And well, my first advice would be to lock it to 30, but I'll show you unlock frame rates first of all. When it comes to settings, I think this is good enough. Actually, it doesn't look that far off from the highest settings when I played it on PC, which I was pretty surprised about, and in a way disappointed. I was expecting better graphics with a bigger graphics card. So again, if you have a computer, a good computer, you probably run this game better. It still runs pretty poorly for me on my higher end computer when there is some players on screen. We don't have the 100 and something people next to us, but at the same time, it's a pretty big map with stuff happening in real time. If you look at the map like that I did, you can see the situation. So there's stuff going on across the board. The server though is at 28 FPS, so the server actually doesn't register things very quickly. This is pretty much the norm. It's pretty taxing on the main computer that is holding this server together with this many players. But again, it's more of a serious game. As you can see there, the draw distance for textures still pretty low. But on the smaller screen, it's less noticeable, and if you're playing ARMA, you're probably all into the military simulation. And here you can also notice the foliage draw distance is pretty poor as well. Although, if you crank it up too much, the GPU is going to basically die, quote unquote, just because, again, just running around with grass close to your face can already hit the GPU quite significantly. When it comes to battery life, on the OLED, I'm expecting unlocked at 30 FPS. Down. Where's the rest? Yeah, there we got some spikes on the CPU usage. Hopefully he was alone. Yeah, we're out in the open here. Hopefully Valve marks it as playable, because I think we're okay. Even on a bigger player count server such as this one. I saw a lot of 64-player matches and all that, but that has nothing against 128. I would say worst case scenario type of thing. If you're flying on a helicopter, it's also probably going to be pretty taxing. But I'm trying my best over here. I haven't played Milsims in a while. So yeah, in a 128-player match, I just see more inconsistent frame times when locked to 30 FPS. I wouldn't unlock the frame rate just due to the fact that the CPU is already having a hard time when I'm getting close to other players, especially in combat, so why make it harder for the Steam Deck if we can not maintain consistent over 30 across the board? Oof. Of course. But hey, I didn't think I was going to get 20 minutes without dying. That's pretty awesome. Oh, what a nice guy. There's somebody reviving me. Can you believe that? Oh. You guys are the best. Let's get out of here. Usually, Milsim people are the best teammates. Like, they actually take care of you. I was just effing around. Okay, we're going into some combat, which is good. I like stress testing stuff. Ooh, Jesus. I think my friend there got a grenade and somebody shot it out of his hand. That's insane. Wow. Very lucky. As you can see, you also have your own shadow and we're getting shot at. But again, on the smaller screen, it holds up way better, obviously. And when you're in combat, well, the CPU cries a little bit further, but not a huge deal. But I think it's worth showing you this on the smaller screen, just because of the fact that most people are probably not going to plug this into a big TV and play it at sub 720p. But I said, actual 720p. I'll keep it with the stock loadout. But now that the sun is out and the clouds move out a little, we actually have self shadows, which look pretty cool. This guy. Oh, okay, he's changing clothes. But again, considering how I played ARMA 3 back then on my PC, now playing the latest one on a portable machine, I think is super impressive. Especially considering that, again, this is a 128 player server. And I tend to be very CPU limited in the ARMA games. So I'm not sure why Valve marks it as unplayable. I've seen verified games running worse than this. So it's kind of a head scratcher for me. There's also mod support, lots of servers. My advice is to look into 30, and if you're into this sort of thing, I think you'll have a good time. Now we're actually GPU limited. Ooh, it's getting intense. Those are friendlies. Ooh. Okay, somebody saw me. Okay, we lost. I haven't played mil sims such as this one in a while. And I'm talking about hardcore stuff like ARMA 3 with the custom servers and all that. As you can probably notice by looking at this footage right now, is that the frame times are way better than when playing multiplayer. And the reason for that is that, well, we're not connected to a server with multiple players doing other things in real time. So all the ballistics, all the physics, the models, all that, we're not loading that. It's just a map, us, and some NPCs. Another issue that I have, apart from the textures not loading properly with the UI, is that the UI is very small, clearly meant for a bigger screen. So that's going to be a limitation. Text on inventory is a little bit small, even at the bottom left corner. So, what to say, the game works, it's 30 FPS with inconsistent frame times when you're playing multiplayer with a big battle like 128 players. As soon as you get close to the action, you're going to see those frame times dropping. But the GPU can still handle it, at least in my opinion, for what I've been playing. I'm just pretty bad at military simulation, especially now that it's been like 10 years since I played one. And they also have actual gamepad support, which is rare in military sim games. They're usually just made for keyboard and mouse, which is understandable. I'll probably just enable gyro to aim better in stressful moments. But it works. So if you're interested in checking it out, there's a link in the description for the Steam page. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks again to Bohemia Interactive for providing a code of the game. Bye guys, thanks for watching.